my great friend, and I know you're a great friend, Jeff Gibby of MetaStock. And there he is. There's his cute little mug. Jeff, are you with us? Can you mic up?
His cute little mug.
Mug is the word of the day, right?
I can. I'm having an issue. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Can you start my camera? It won't let me. It says I can't start my camera.
Yeah, it must be, it's letting me control the
Hi.
world, which I love.
There you go.
Hey,
How are you doing?
good, how are you?
Let's get this in frame. I'm good. I'm doing really well. Thank you. Let's try this now.
You gonna try to share your screen?
Yeah, what time do you guys, yeah, let's make sure that works, right?
54 minutes from now.
54 minutes. Okay, we can do that. That should not be an issue.
Excellent.
Okay, share.
And if it is, just get after Guy.
No.
He's gonna buy you breakfast, that's what I hear.
I've done breakfast with Guy probably like 3 times in London, and he knows a good place. So if you're ever in London, hit Guy up for breakfast.
He knows the guy.
I got this guy.
All right, Jeff, take it away. We're excited you're here.
All right. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Looks like we have a good crowd today. I do have the questions and answers open. So if you have questions as we go, just let me know. And I'm going to start with something you guys are all going to thoroughly enjoy. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. So let me talk a little bit about me just for a minute. Kind of want to give you an idea of my background. I started MetaStock here like 24 years ago in March, maybe 25. I should go look at my LinkedIn and count the years. But it's been a really, really good place to work. I started out in the U.S. Army Reserves, and they taught me how to count pills for a living. And I've decided that wasn't very interesting or fun. And I had a buddy that was working over at MetaStock, and she was like, hey, you should come get a job. I started out in inside sales. It was a lot of fun. I did it for like a decade. So if you had questions about MetaStock back then, there was a good chance you'd talk to me about it. For the next decade or so, I was actually in charge of working with a lot of the people that are like panelists today. Like I worked with Guy to help him pull his OVI stuff into MetaStock. And actually the agreement we have with Guy is actually really, really cool. If you have OVI and you have MetaStock, you can just download an add-on and it pulls all of his data right into MetaStock. I worked with Steve, who's coming up, Steve Bigelow. And it's just been a very, very good experience for me personally. I came in not knowing what a stock was, and like 20 years later, I've been able to work with some of the greatest minds in the industry, and I don't feel ungrateful for that. It's been a lot of fun. So, okay. I am looking at questions. Those looks like things I don't need to really talk about. So let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to be using MetaStock. MetaStock is a software program that I represent. We've been in business since the late 80s. For the last 25 years in a row, our software has been rated #1 by the readers of Stocks and Commodities magazine. Okay. When I started, we were owned by Reuters. They later became Thomson Reuters, and they're now called Refinitiv. But the news and the data that we power our software with is powered by Refinitiv. Refinitiv is like something like a multiple $billion-a year company. 90% of the revenue that they get is actually selling news and information to institutional traders. And the reason they wanted us, the reason they bought us initially, was they wanted to be able to power and provide the technical platform that we had been building for individual traders. They wanted to offer to our institutions. And it's been a great, we actually bought ourselves back about 7 years ago, but we still offer some of the best news on the planet. I'm just going to show you this little platform right here real quick. we do, as part of our real-time services, offer a program that they literally spend $1 billion designing. It's actually something that they have 3,000 reporters that are giving real-time information and news into it. It's actually something that they have 300 different news bureaus throughout the world that are giving information into it. And it's part of our real-time service. We're not going to talk about it all today, because I'm going to talk about like system trading and technical analysis, but it's just included. It's been a very, very good kind of relationship for us. So we have been a good partnership with Reuters. We still have a number of their institutional traders that are a good number that are using MetaStock. And it's one of the places where you can get really literally the same news and the same information that's provided by, you know, to hedge funds and to mutual funds and to banks. You can get it through us. So we're pretty happy with that. And I did mention how we rated #1 in our price category for 26 years in a row. We're proud of that, and I think we should be. So that's a long time, 26 years straight to be rated #1. So I have a little bit of a motivational quote of my own. It's not trade what you see, but that one was good. Maybe I'll steal it from Guy later. But if you're not familiar with Richard Dennis, what he talks about, okay, Richard Dennis, let me tell you the story. It's a little bit early, and I've maybe had a little bit too much coffee, but Richard Dennis, if you're familiar with Richard Dennis, he was a famous trader back in the 70s and 80s. And he did a very, very famous experiment. Him and his business partner, Richard Dennis and Bill Eckhart is the name of it. I had to think about that for a second. They had a little bit of a disagreement, if you would. Bill Eckhart believed that you couldn't teach people how to trade. Like, it was something that was genetic. You had to have kind of exactly the right disposition to trade. And Richard Dennis disagreed. And so they had the basis of a fairly good gentleman's bet. And the result of that is they ended up putting a bunch of advertisements in like the Wall Street Journal at the time and Investors Business Daily, and they recruited a bunch of traders, and they trained them for a couple of weeks at the end of a year, 1 year, on how to trade. And it wasn't a successful endeavor. It was like a hugely successful endeavor. And you can look up the Wikipedia story because it'll give you better numbers than I will just trying to make them up. But the key, they were it wasn't successful. It was hugely, insanely successful. And they ran it for about 5 or 10 years. Anyway, the result of that is like the quote here. Richard Dennis would always famously say, I could always publish the rules in a newspaper, but nobody would follow him. The key to trading is using consistency and discipline. And what we're going to talk about today is trading rules, okay? There's all kinds of, and you're going to hear everybody here, JR and PRF, you got it right, turtle strategy, right? You're going to hear everybody today talk a little bit about different strategies that work well. And I love a lot of the ones that are out here today. Steve Bigelow, who comes up after me, I love the product we designed with Steve. But what I want to talk today a little bit about is technical systems and how to look at technical systems and how to understand what works well. And so what I'm going to ask you guys real quickly, and I just want a number, like how experienced are you at trading? Like, so I'm going to give you a 1 to 5 ranking scale here. 1 if you're brand new and this is the first webinar you've ever been to. 5 if you've been doing this for decades. Okay, and so Vince gives us a 5 already. Go ahead and let me know. 5 from a JR. TL says 5. We've got Kevin with a 4, Amanda with a 2, and they're just coming in. 5, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3. Dinasker says not enough 2, 2. No 1s. Lots of 2s, lots of 3s. There's a 1. Adam gave us a 1. Okay, thank you for all those answers. That's very, very cool. What I want to do today is start a little bit on a more basic level. So I'm going to start for you 1s and 2s to kind of talk a little bit about what a technical system is. So you guys can kind of understand what we're looking at when we're looking at a technical system, how we're going to perform with it and that kind of stuff. Can one of you guys tell me who this is? And the first person that can tell me who this is, I'll give you a subscription to MetaStock for free for a month. Let's see if we get an answer real quick. I'm going to leave that open as a question. I see a lot of questions. JR, Irving's big brother, Tip O'Neill. Someone I do not know. Dad? That's your dad? Okay. All right. Jamie Dimon. No. Okay. All right. A pilot on an airplane. 2. Okay. This is, so I'm going to go with, let's see. I'm getting a lot of dismissed questions here, but I actually do want to pick somebody from the first part of it. I'm going to go ahead and kind of spoil the thing. I thought somebody would get this, not Gorbachev, definitely not Nedster. But what I'm going to say is it's Gerald Appel. So, and for playing along, what I'm going to do, even though it's Haley, it's not J.R. Irving's brother, if you want to drop me an email message at jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com, I will give you a free month of MetaStock real time with the data feed as well. So just drop me a message, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, .gibby@metastock.com. Gerald Appel is the name that we were looking for. And in case you're not familiar with Gerald Appel, he developed a trading indicator that you might be familiar with. It's called the MACD indicator, okay? MACD stands for moving average, convergence, divergence. And I just realized that this slide is ugly, but I didn't realize that before now, okay? The MACD is, we're gonna spend a little bit of time just explaining what the MACD is and how to use it today. And then we're gonna test it and see how well it works against a couple of different stocks, okay? The MACD is what I would call a trend, and it's a momentum indicator. So you've heard maybe people say like the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or a rising tide lifts all boats, or, you know, stuff like that. But we're going to talk a little bit about what MACD is. Now you might wonder why I chose MACD particularly, and the reason is because when I was kind of getting this particular presentation ready, MACD was a very, very popular video on our website. It was one of our most viewed videos, and that's really the only reason. It's also a fairly good system. The thing that I've learned about MACD is a lot of you fives will probably realize Gerald Appel, Joanne. Thank you for asking the name, asking about who it was. Gerald Appel is the name. Lost my train of thought, but that's okay, I'll get it back. A lot of people use MACD, but they don't really understand what they're looking at. And so this you might learn something. Hopefully that's the goal. So I'm gonna go ahead and right now, your screen is gonna go blank because I'm gonna get out of a PowerPoint. We're gonna get into MetaStock. We're gonna play around with it. And to do that, I just have to stop sharing for a second. So let me go ahead and stop the share. Right to the S&P 500. Pyram says he is Gerald Appel. Yeah, that's correct. We got an answer. Okay, MACD. We'll go ahead and use the S&P 500, and what I've got is I've preloaded a chart of the S&P 500. This is basically our MetaStock platform. Going to add a couple of indicators to it just to kind of show you what MACD is. Okay, so right now, one of the things I like about MetaStock is it's pretty easy to use. Right now, I've got a bar chart open. I've got volume down here at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is one of the things I want you to be aware of is anytime you want to change something in MetaStock, just double click on it. So I'm going to go ahead and double click right here. I'm going to change this to Candlesticks because I prefer Candlesticks to look at. And then I'm going to add a couple of indicators to a chart. So if I click right here, this is kind of MetaStock's, we call it the indicator quick list, okay? And if I scroll through this dramatically large list of indicators, there's going to be 200 or 300 of them in here. There's going to be like moving averages and MACDs and stochastics and, you know, just about anything that you want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the very top, because one of the things that MetaStock does is it'll keep track of the indicators you actually use and keep them right here in the most recently used part. And we're going to use MACD and we're going to use moving average. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to apply a couple moving averages to this chart. So let's go ahead and grab the moving average. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and let that drop on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 12 period exponential moving average based on the close, okay? And then I'm going to make that, again, I want to make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to double click here, And I just want you to be able to see it with a little bit more clarity. So just gonna make it a little fatter. Go ahead and click on OK. And then I'm gonna do that again, but this time I'm going to select a 26 period exponential moving average. So I'm gonna make it blue. I'm gonna give it a little bit of more weight to it so you can see it a little bit better on the internet. And we'll go ahead and click on OK. Okay. And then, so now I've got my 2 indicators on there. We'll come back to why I put those on the chart particularly. I'm gonna also go ahead and throw a MACD on here. Okay, so I'm just gonna find it on this list. I'm gonna drag it up here. I'm gonna put it in its own window. So I just point at the top here to do that. And I have MACD. Well, I'll have it in a second anyway. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and move that up. I do want to kind of see this just a little bit differently. You're probably more familiar with seeing MACD as a histogram. I personally prefer seeing it as a histogram. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that change to it right now. Say, color style. We'll go ahead and make that a histogram. And I'm gonna make it a black histogram as well. Click on OK. Okay. Should move the camera to lower left of the chart. I think you can drag owner 1. I think you can drag your camera to where you want to. You can just drag it to wherever you want to. I believe so. I believe that's the case. Okay. I know I was able to drag mine way over here because it's very distracting to look at myself while I'm trying to present. So I try and not do that. Okay. So now, if I wanted to calculate a MACD the way Gerald Appel in the 80s decided to calculate a MACD, what I do, pretty much what you're doing is you're going to subtract the value of your shorter term moving average, right here, this red line, from your longer term moving average, okay? And the difference there, the difference between this shorter number and this longer number is going to give you the value of this black histogram. It's that simple. It really is, okay? You've got a black dotted line on here. I'm going to go ahead and make that a little thicker so you can see it as well. This black line basically is what they call a signal line, okay? And the signal line is just basically a 9-period exponential moving average of that difference. So we know basically looking at the MACD, we're just basically comparing a shorter term moving average to a longer term moving average. That's what's giving you the line. The signal line, or what Gerald Appel calls the signal line, is simply the average of that difference. That's it, okay? And it's something that you can use, and as I said a little bit earlier, MACD is something that you can use to measure trend and momentum, okay? Trend is very, very simple to read on here. If you have a market that's kind of going up, what you're going to have is that shorter moving average is going to be on top of that larger moving average, and you're going to have a positive MACD value. Okay, if you have a market that's moving down, you're going to have a negative MACD value because that shorter term moving average is going to be much, or it's going to be below the longer term moving average because your market's moving down. That's how you can kind of measure trend out of it, right? Now, you can also look at momentum because let's say that we kind of have a fairly sane market that's kind of generally moving up, right? You're going to have a positive value, but it's not generally going really, really quick. We have a kind of a very, like I said, sane market. And so right here, what you have is kind of a very, let's say, normal MACD. Let's say that they decided to kind of take, as I don't know if you guys saw the Buffett speeches are part of it, but let's say they, for some reason, they decide to take the train off of the tracks and kind of set it off to the side for a while. And let's say that there's a huge down move in the market. Well, you're going to see that reflected in the chart as well, because you're going to see a very, very deep MACD. And this is a very deep MACD. This is one of the deepest MACD I've seen, okay? So it's a measurement of trend and momentum. There's about 3 different ways that you can use to actually look at MACD, okay? And I'm going to talk about all 3 of them because, because that's what I plan to talk about, I guess. I don't know. The first way I'm going to talk about MACD is you can look at MACD in relationship to a signal line, okay? So if we've got MACD and if it's trading up above its signal line, then you're going to say that the MACD is in a bullish phase, okay? If your MACD comes and it starts trading down below its signal line, it's going to be in a bearish phase. If it switches back up and it's above its signal line, then it's going to be in a bullish phase. So you can look at the phase of MACD, and right now, looks like we just switched from maybe a bullish to a bearish phase MACD because that crossed down and is now trading, I think, below its signal line. At least it's very close. Okay, so that's the first way. You can either say that MACD is in a bullish phase or a bearish phase. What I'm going to do right now to kind of help illustrate exactly where that happens is I'm going to attach what we call an expert advisor to this chart. So I'm going to, right here, we've got a guy in a little bit of a bolo hat. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And there's about 35 or 40, maybe 50 different methodologies that are available in here that kind of are going to put signals on a chart, alerts on a chart, and kind of give you commentary as kind of explain to what they do. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the Equus MACD, or actually we've renamed it. I'm going to go and find in the newer versions of MetaStock, we just call it MACD by MetaStock. So I'm going to come down here to the MACD by MetaStock. Okay, I'm going to attach it. We're going to go ahead and click on close. And what you're going to see, because I'm going to point it out right now, is every time that we start trading above our signal line for the MACD, you're going to notice that right down here at the bottom, we're going to go from a bearish phase to a bullish phase. Okay, so this bearish bullish ribbon that exists on the bottom of this chart just tells you the relationship of MACD, whether it's in a bullish phase, i.e. trading above its signal line, or whether it's in a bearish phase, i.e. trading below its signal line. Okay, now when it goes above its signal line, like it did right here, and the exact date on this was March 26th on the S&Ps. I'll go ahead and grab a horizontal line right here. When it goes up above that signal line, your MACD enters a bullish phase, okay? And when that actually happens, we give you a buy signal on the chart, okay? When it crosses down below its signal line, like it did right here, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna enter a bearish phase. If you're bearish on the market, or if you're bearish on a stock, you're gonna get a sell signal on here, okay? If you're, and you can kind of go in and see where that phase change actually happened. And this is one of the reasons I really like technical analysis in general, okay? Because right now I'm not trying to kind of determine exactly what the market is. Oh, okay, let me say it a different way. I'm not trying to determine what the Feds are doing and what impact that's going to have on the market. I'm not deciding if there's going to be a stimulus package and how that's going to affect the market. Watching that, I'm not going to see, okay, is there a version 2? What we're looking at is a very objective way. What is the market actually doing? We're studying price, okay? So what we do when we look at technical analysis is subjective. I'm sorry, objective and not subjective, okay? Vince says, okay. PRF, you have a very good question. I'm going to answer it right now. Has MetaStock developed an HTML5 browsing charting service like TradingView or What Charts? And if not, why? Okay, that's a really good question. We've actually looked at HTML5, and HTML5 is great for about 3 charts real time at one time. It's just not where it needs to be to handle a lot of open charts for a real-time environment. So no, we haven't developed an HTML5 browsing environment. We did look into doing that. We decided that the technology is not where it needs to be to really support a full-fledged real-time platform. So thank you for that question. Vince asked a question, what moving averages are these? So the red and the blue is a 12-period exponential, and it's a 26-period exponential. And I believe those are right, but I'm going to check real quick. If I click on the help right now, I can go in here and say, okay, it's going to tell me. I love the help file in MetaStock. The moving average convergence divergence indicator is a 26-period exponential moving average from a 12-period exponential moving average. So I believe I remembered right this morning when I set those up. Okay, it does tell you exactly how it is. And that's one of the things about all of these indicators that are in MetaStock. If I have questions about how they're calculated, how they're interpreted, if I want some tips on putting them on a chart, it's all available. You just right click on the indicator and go to help. When we used to print this manual, it was like 680 pages long. It was huge. And there's a lot of information about how things are calculated. Okay. how did sell happen before the histogram went around across the horizontal axis? I'm glad you asked that, Dinakar. Thank you, because we don't care if it's, the axis just tells you where 0 is, okay? So right here's I'm trying to find my arrow on the chart. This is just where 0 is. We're not really that concerned about where 0 is with relationship to that. We're looking at MACD and its relationship to its signal line or its moving average. So the reason this buy signal was planted right here, Dinakar, is because MACD went up above its signal line right here. The 0 line is kind of important if you're looking for like divergences in MACD, that kind of stuff, but it's for this in relationship to whether it's in a bullish or a bearish phase. If it comes down below its signal line, you'll get a sell signal. It then enters its bearish phase, okay? If it goes up above its signal line, it's then entered its bullish phase, okay? So hopefully that helps. Okay, all right. Where was I? Okay, so that's the first way. That's actually a pretty good dinner card to help us get back on track. That's pretty good. That's the first way we can look at MACD. Where is it? Is it in a bullish phase or a bearish phase? And how has that been happening? The other way that you can look at MACD is as an overbought, oversold indicator, okay? If I start to kind of look right here at this part of the chart right here, I'm gonna, let's just try a little circle around it. Okay, right here, you'll notice right here, we start to get all of these little green bars, okay? And what this is telling you is the expert advisor is actually telling you that the MACD is starting to get very, very extended. It's starting to get oversold, okay? And when this starts to happen, it's just kind of warning you, hey, you might want to have your stop in place. You might want to update your stop a little bit. You don't necessarily want to trade on a MACD being oversold because you notice we started getting oversold here. It didn't actually turn around for another 50 points, right? So it's just kind of maybe an early warning. You want to wait for this reversal pattern to actually come in before you actually take advantage of it, okay? So that's a second way that you can look at MACD is an overbought, oversold reading. And the third way is what we call a divergence, okay? And as a divergence indicator. Okay, now I'm going to kind of cover divergence a little bit real quick here because I'm looking at the time and I have to go a little bit quicker. But one of the things that I will say about divergence is Alexander Elder, who wrote a book called Come Into My Trading Room. He's a great technician and I have a lot of good respect for him. Calls MACD divergence one of the most powerful signals in all of technical analysis. Okay, and the way that you watch for divergence is as well, we'll just kind of draw a couple lines on the chart. If we wanted to look for divergence, what we could do is we could draw a signal line, a line from a peak in a MACD to another peak in MACD. Okay, so right here you've got this cross down below 0, fairly significant cross down below 0. Alex likes to look for that cross below 0 as well. And here you have a peak in MACD. Here you have a peak in MACD. And if we look at where our prices kind of line up to that, okay? Here we've got a very, very downward slope. Here we've got a bit of a negative slope. This almost fits the definition for what I would call a divergence. We've got almost an upward slope and almost a downward slope. And right there, what you're seeing may be a very, very significant signal. There's a huge difference between the slope of this line and the slope of that line. So you want to keep in mind of that. You'll want to be mindful of that right now. Anyway, so those are kind of the three ways people can look at MACD. You look at the signal line, you look at whether it's overbought or oversold, and you look at divergence. Okay, we actually do have a feature in MetaStock that allows us to kind of see all three of those things and get them explained to us. So if I come in here and I'm just going to go ahead and click on View, I'm going to open up the expert commentary right here. And you'll notice when I do that, right here, we get a little bit of an arrow that points straight down to the very last day of data, okay? So right now, if we're looking at it, it's going to tell you that the MACD can provide buy or sell indications in 3 ways: a signal line crossover, the overbought oversold condition, and divergences. Currently, it's bullish since it's trading above its signal line. Okay, it's not overbought or oversold, and it hasn't found any divergent signals within the last 5 days. Okay, now one of the things that I think is really cool about this is I can actually kind of move this commentary around. So if I didn't know that this green bar was kind of signifying that it's overbought, oversold, I could click on this, and then what it's going to do is it's going to explain that to me. So now instead of looking at this very last bar, I clicked on this bar here. It's now analyzing, it's ignoring all this data that came in past here. It's just telling us what's happening on this bar, okay? And so it's going to say, okay, again, the MACD can provide buy and sell indications in 3 ways. Currently, right here, it was bearish because it's trading below its signal line, okay? The price has decreased 24.19% since it, and ranged from a high to a low. Right now, the MACD right here, the MACD was in an oversold range. But like I was saying before, prices may continue to move lower for some time. Wait for prices to move higher before considering any long positions. And again, there's been no divergence signals within the last 5 days. PRF says, I use MACD with columns instead of histograms, much clearer. Please try it. I'll take a look at that, yeah. Please explain the buy signals to the left on your example. So the only reason, Mr. 4788, that you get buy and sell signals is on this chart is because the MACD is crossing down below its signal line, which generated this signal, or it's crossing up above its signal line, which generated this signal, okay? If it crosses up above its signal line, right here, you get a buy signal. If it crosses down. So every time in the past, when that happens, you're going to get a buy or a sell signal. It's just indicating that your MACD goes into a bullish or bearish lines. Okay. Frederick says, what are the difference between MACD line histogram divergence and signal line histogram divergence? I don't, hold on a second. I'm trying to mute this thing so I don't cough in it. Don't worry, I have allergies. So I'm allergic to the air. It's not COVID. So I think I don't usually look at the signal line to do divergences at all. But I would just say that kind of the difference is probably just the line that you're using. There's probably not going to be a big difference the other way. Gary says, trading the MACD is a surefire way to lose all your money. Just saying. MACD works pretty good, but one of the things that we're going to talk about in a minute, Gary, is actually, is it a good one to use, or do you want to use something else? And how do we determine what's the best way to use? Okay. What is the criteria when the MACD is overbought or oversold? I'm not sure the exact criteria, but Trevor, because I just don't know. But once it starts to get pretty extended, and if you want me to look at the exact criteria, drop me an email at jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. I'm sure with the staff at MetaStock, we can follow that along. Okay. Frederico says, what is MACD with columns? Can you show that? I don't actually know. I was going to do a little bit of research on that. Making the signal line will clear the confusion. Well, making it thinner. Okay, I can make it thinner. I just double click on it. Okay. And then can you set the original print arrow when it crosses the 0 line? 44788, I love your name. I don't, but yes, you can. Actually, one of the things about MetaStock is you could actually set up anything that I'm going to show you today exactly the way you want. So if you want it, I'm certainly, it's a little bit beyond what we're doing today, but if you wanted to instead see a buy signal when this crosses above 0 instead of above its signal line, you could absolutely do that. You could test for that. You could scan for that. One of the things I love about MetaStock is it's completely customizable. It has its own formula language built into it. Okay. I'm going to show you one other thing, and then we're going to kind of move on a little bit, but there are a number of different, oh wow, we're going to move on a little bit quick, but I do want to kind of just talk about one different expert advisor to give you the idea of kind of how well this can work for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach another built-in MetaStock system called Candlesticks by MetaStock. Okay. we'll just do Equus candlesticks. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and it's the same thing. We renamed some of the stuff in MetaStock to kind of show. Now this particular expert's actually pretty cool. It's going to identify and label all of the 26 or so. There's about 26 or so single day patterns that this will identify for you. And this is again included with the software. But I just want to give you an idea of kind of like how instructive this candlestick or this commentary can be in general, because we showed you the MACD example. If I want to learn about candlesticks, I can point at any of these patterns and I can find out that a rising window is where the top of the previous shadow is below the bottom of the current shadow. And I can find out what this engulfing bull is, or I can find out what this rising window is. I love the expert commentary in MetaStock. It's one of my favorite features because it helps you understand kind of different technical methods and how they incorporate. Okay. But one of the things that I also mentioned that I really like about MetaStock is, or technical analysis in general, is the fact that everything's specific. So we know why we're getting this buy signal. We know why we're getting a specific sell signal. Okay, everything's objective. We're looking at kind of the trend and momentum of a chart. One of the questions I would get frequently from customers, and remember I worked in inside sales for a number of years, but it was very easy to go in and start talking to people about, there's 300 different systems or indicators in here. There's 40 or 50 different systems. There's 8 different line studies. And a lot of times, a lot of people were like, well, I don't know how to use 300 different indicators. How do I know what's the best system to be using? Or how do I know what indicators I should be even learning about, right? Like there's a lot of stuff. We've been working on this for 20 something years, like since 1987, literally, right? And there's a lot of tools that are in there. And I think that's one of the advantages that we have is you're not going to outgrow MetaStock, but how do you get started, right? How do we understand what is the best performing methodology for the stocks that we're interested in? Because quite frankly, if you don't like MACD, or if it doesn't work well, or if there's better ways to trade S&P 500 or the stocks you're interested in, shouldn't we waste 40 minutes learning about that? I'm going slow. I need to pick it up. Instead of spending 40 minutes learning about MACD. And that's a very, very good question, right? And what I want, and one of the ways we answer that, since when we're dealing with MACD, when we're dealing with indicators, we're dealing with objectivity, right? So since everything's objective, we can go in here, and if we were just to look at this chart, we could look at where this buy signal came in and see where the price had moved, and we could understand, okay, well, yeah, this buy signal is really good, right? We could go back in time and say, okay, well, this sell signal came in here, and we went short here, and we would have bought back in long here. And yeah, that one was really good. And then you could go back a little further and say, well, this one is pretty mediocre. This one was pretty mediocre. And you could very, very easily figure out exactly where you would have got in, where you would have gotten out, and whether or not it was worth like the salt, right? And since everything's objective and not subjective, we have the ability to go in and test that out and figure out where that works out. And where is my power console? Come on. Where it's hiding? Oh, here it is. Okay, good. I found it. Okay. Now, since we have a software program, I can actually go in and I can test it, right? I can go, okay, these are the instruments I'm interested in. Okay. Which ones? And I'm just going to answer a couple of these questions that I already answered just so they go away from here. But what I want to be able to do is actually understand what works. So I can focus my attention on what works as instead of indicators. I don't really care about the 300 indicators that work. I want to know what's interesting for the stocks that I'm trading. Okay, so give me a couple stocks that you're interested in. I'm going to go ahead and start up what we call a system test, where we're going to go back in time for the last year or so and kind of figure out what works well. Okay, SPY. Antonio, give me a couple symbols, guys. AAPL.O. Okay. Antonio, we get all of our data from Reuters. Or, I'm sorry, Refinitiv. It's a new name for it. BP. Okay, where's my BP? Okay. W. Okay, just make sure I get the right symbol for that. Wayfair, okay. And that's probably enough. DBX, yeah, we'll take one more in here, okay. And the thing about this tester is I can add as many stocks as I want in here. Dropbox, oh, I love Dropbox. I have Dropbox installed. Okay, I could actually, if I wanted to, and I had a little bit more time than 14 minutes, because we're gonna move a little quicker right now. If I wanted to, I could go in and test the whole optionable universe. I could test all the ETFs, Mario. I could do all of the stocks. I could do the futures. I could do whatever I wanted to. And thank you for asking that. You can scan them as well. We're gonna move though. Okay, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna take 58 of the systems that I know that are included in MetaStock. I'm gonna start a system test right here, and we're gonna go back 1 year in time, okay, 250, well, actually 4/6/18. We're gonna go from 4/6/18 to today. Okay, so about 2 years in time. We're gonna test those 4 instruments against these 58 ideas, and we're gonna see what works. We're gonna have a big market up rally, we're gonna have a big market down rally, and out of those 56 systems, for those stocks you provided in the S&P, which systems worked well? Which systems worked best? And I apologize because I'm gonna start moving because I had to get through this thing, but if I don't get to your question, or if you ask a question and I don't get a chance to answer it, email me. I'd be happy to answer it. If you want, you can also email my team. We've got a great group of guys over there that can answer your question. So what we did, just real quick there, is we took all of those 56 trading ideas that I highlighted out. I took 2 years of history and we took every buy and sell signal. We did that for the MACD. We did it for the bull power, bear power. We did it for all 56 of these trading ideas, okay? MACD, if on those stocks, to your point earlier, I don't remember who it was, but there's tons of you here. But actually, the MACD histogram system would have lost money, about 9% on an average. Okay, so why did I spend so much time talking about MACD? I should have went actually, honestly, a little bit faster, but we can see exactly how well these work. Just not meaning to scroll there. We can see out of those 5 stocks that we tested, those 2 years of buy and sell signals, starting with $10,000, the best performing system on average would have been bull power, bear power. Average meaning the 4 or 5 stocks that we tested. It would have made 186%, or a net profit of 18606. Okay, its best performing profit out of all of the systems would have made about 8,300. Its worst performing profit would have been about minus 1,800. Okay, now on average, it traded 56 times, which is pretty frequently. Okay, assuming that I had 2 years of data, that's quite a lot of trades. Okay, but its average profit versus average loss was 568. Okay, you can see that we've got an InstaTrend system that did well. It did 62 trades. You can see you've got the Mama Fama system. It did well. It had about 33 trades. Mama means mother of all moving averages, father of moving averages. The reason I kind of like Mama a little bit better is it only traded 33 times versus 36 times. So, you know, if there's 12 months in a year, 2 years, that's going to be 2 or 3 trades a month as opposed to 56, which is almost double that. Well, not quite double that, but pretty close. Okay, so you kind of get an idea. Okay, well, this made 142%. It traded about this often. Let's take a closer look. I'm going to go ahead and click on view here. And you can see, based on the instruments that are listed here, how well they actually did. So I heard a ding dong. Hey, Steve Bigelow. How are you, man?
Good.
All right. So Wayfair was our best performing methodology here. And you can see again, I'm going to go ahead and sort it based on the net profit. What we've got is we've got a 608% gain on Wayfair using this mother of all moving averages and father of all moving averages. Okay. So there is a complete report here. Okay. Wayfair Incorporated. I'll go ahead and click on view. You can see what your profit and loss is. You can compare that to buy and hold. You can look at your profitable trades versus your unprofitables, how many are long, how many are short. And normally I spend a little bit more time going through this report. I'm just out of time. So I'm going a little bit faster just to kind of accommodate that. You've got, there is a bit of an equity curve that you can kind of go in and look at right here as well. I'm not sure why that actually generated no results, but I don't have a way to look at it. The bottom line here, though, is now, instead of looking at, now I've kind of got a little bit of a direction here. This Mama-Fama system worked great on Wayfair. I know that because I tested 520 bars, 416 through 5720. So about 752 days of data were tested. And based on trading that a couple of years, we've actually made a huge return. What I would do now is, if this is a system I liked, I wanted to see it on this stock, what I would do is I'd actually open up Wayfair. So let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on plot on the chart right here. I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And you see right here, real quick, my default system is Steve Bigelow, who's coming right up. I love Steve's stuff. So what I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to go ahead and attach the expert advisor called Mama-Fama. So we've got, it's called the ACT Mama-Fama system. Okay, we'll go ahead and attach that to the chart. That's going to put all the buy and sell signals on Wayfair for me, so I can go and historically see where I would have bought, where I would have sold, and I can kind of get a visual idea for how well that works. Right now it says the Mama-Fama strategy is used. It's based on strategies developed by John Ehlers in his book, Rocket Science for Traders. Mother of all moving averages and father of all moving average indicators were developed by John Ehlers. Tells you a little bit about him. Kind of directs you to the manual, which you can get right here in the help file. If you go to help about MetaStock, you can go in. There's a whole manual that talks about how they're doing. And you can, of course, get his book called Rocket Science for Traders. Right now, it's currently bullish. Okay. If we go back to where that buy signal says, it says it would give us the Mama-Fama indicators are signaling a long opportunity. Traders who wish to take advantage of this opportunity should enter a long position at the beginning of the next bar. As always, use a protective stop to limit risk. Okay. Now, to answer the question earlier about scanning and how that works, if you find a strategy in here that you like, or if you develop a strategy that you like, you can actually go in and scan for it. So to do that real quickly, we call our scanning the Explorer in MetaStock. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay. If I wanted to, and you can see, this is all of Steve Bigelow's stuff here. I'm giving a little plug for you, Steve. But if I wanted to do a scan for that Mama-Fama system, I could come down here and find it. It's going to be listed here under Act Mama-Fama. I select that right here. I'll just come down here to a list of all of the pre-filtered optionable stocks that I've got. If I can find it real quick, because I got to get out of here. Oh, local, it's right here. Okay. Let's do this. Well, let's just do the optionables real quick. Okay, so right here, I'm telling it to look for a buy signal for Mama-Fama. I'm going to have it look at the last 4,300 stocks. I'll go ahead and tell it to start, and I'm going to stop sharing it there. It's actually going to be completed before we get done here, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the offer that we're doing. So there it's loading it up. You'll notice it's just creaming through these things. It's looked at 115 of them already, and you can scan for anything you want to. You can learn about anything you want to. But most importantly, you can test anything you want to. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share on here real quick. Let's go back to my little PowerPoint here. I know that there's probably going to be some questions that just because there's 5 minutes that I didn't answer. I apologize for that, but I don't want to cut into Steve's time. So I'll try and get a couple of them out real quick. But feel free to reach out to me personally or my sales team. They would be happy to answer questions for you. A couple quick ones that are easy. Frederico says how many layers you can look back. On a futures contract, you can go back to the 70s. On the Dow, you can go back to the 1920s. On futures stocks, US stocks, you can go usually back to the 80s. So there's tons of history that's available with MetaStock. Optimization of variables, Mark, you can do optimization of variables, and we can get into more details and dirt with you on that because it's a very, very complicated. I could spend 20 minutes on it, and that's not very nice. Okay. The one thing I do want to talk about is, so yes, we've been rated number 1 26 years in a row. We only covered a little bit of MetaStock. We covered the expert advisor and how it gives you the real-time alerts. We talked the real-time English commentary that kind of explains everything to you. We did system testing a little bit. We did scanning. We also have a patented forecaster in there. It's a huge toolbox. You know, over the years, I've seen software that sells for thousands of dollars that does a fraction of what MetaStock does. You know, remember, we've been working on it since the 80s, okay? And it's not a software platform that you're going to outgrow. It'll grow with you. So if you want to optimize strategies, if you want to do stuff like that, you can. So we have 2 versions of MetaStock. We have the real-time version, MetaStock RT, and we have a version that we call daily charts, okay? MetaStock real-time does include that real-time hedge fund quality, mutual fund quality, bank quality newsfeed that I kind of just showed you for a second. The one they've spent $1 billion on also includes MetaStock. It's like $250 per month, okay? And it does include all of that, okay? We also have an end of day version that basically includes everything I showed you today. It's only $69 per month. So, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to give you basically a 3-month trial. So if you want to try MetaStock real time, you can. It'll be $250. If you want to try MetaStock DC, you can. It'll be $69. Okay, that's going to actually include and cover you for your first 3 months. Okay, so like for $70, you're going to be like between $20 and $30 per month to try MetaStock DC. Okay, that's going to include MetaStock 17. I need to update this slide. I just noticed that. The data region of your choice. So you can get, we covered 203 exchanges globally. We have three different regions: North America, which includes South America and Canada, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia Pacific. So those are the 3 different regions. You just pick which one you want, and they set you up with all of the data and the software, everything you need to go ahead and get started. All of the regions include futures. All of the regions include global FX or foreign exchange. They also all include crypto as well, okay? You're gonna get basically a training CD that we call, well, it's all online now. We don't actually make any CDs or anything physical anymore, but you can get our Unleash the Power of MetaStock that shows you some of our favorite systems, shows you how to test that we did today, shows you like our RBO system, all of our favorite built-in things. There's about, I think there's 15 or so chapters that you go through that kind of walk you through the use of the program. We're also going to have somebody give you a call. They're going to set up an appointment with you. They're going to do basically what we call a white glove installation appointment. You're going to talk one-on-one to somebody on my team that's going to walk you through how you run your scans, how you run your system tests, how you do everything. Okay, and you can sign up. You can visit us at metastock.com/LP. Okay. You can also give us a call at 800-882-3040. You can also come in and visit us. And like I said, we have a really good group of guys that are working today. metastock.com/sales-chat. You'll like them. My team is awesome. These guys on the phone are awesome. If you want to reach out to me, there's my email address again, jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. And one last question: does MetaStock support cryptocurrency prices at different exchanges like TradingView? So we do support cryptocurrencies. In MetaStock, it is possible to see where the different brokerages are coming through, but I think we need to talk to you a little bit more, PRF, about what you're doing. Okay, Trevor, yes, we do Forex. So that's my time. Give us a call, 800-882-3040. I'm sorry if I missed your question. We do have a scripting capability, Adam. We just ran out of time. Drop me an email, though, jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. I do want to hear from you. You guys are going to love the next speaker. His name is Steve Bigelow, and he's a great business partner of ours. I love the methodologies that we built into MetaStock. So, Jenna, back to you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And
it's great
I'm
to
gonna
see you
take this-
again, Jeffrey.
Take the screen share back from you.